These videos will be based off of the Algebra 2 Mixed Review packet, especially questions 21, 22, 26, 30, 31, 33, 34, 36, 37, and 39. Question 21. For all values of x, which of the following expressions is defined as the secant of x times the cosecant of x times the cosine of x? Which one is it equivalent to? So we're going to have to trade these expressions out for simpler expressions. The secant of x can be expressed as 1 over the cosine of x, since the secant is the reciprocal function for cosine. The cosecant of x is the reciprocal of sine, so that could be expressed as 1 over the sine of x. And then cosine of x is just going to be left as cosine of x over 1. What you're going to notice is that you can cancel out 1 over the cosine of x with cosine of x, and you'll be left with just 1 over the sine of x, which would be your answer, which is choice C. The next question is number 22. The product of I to the 7th power times I to the 5th power. When you multiply powers of I, you keep the base as I and you add the powers to be at 12. And then you have I to the 12th power. What you do next is you take the power that you have, which is 12, and divide by the 4 options. Because remember, your 4 basic options are that you could have I to the 0 power, which is equal to 1. You could have I to the 1st power, which is of course equal to I. You could have I squared, which is equal to a negative 1, or you could have I cubed, which is equal to a negative I. That's why we divide the power by 4, since there are 4 options. And that's going to come out as 3. And then you're going to look at your remainder. Your remainder is 0, so that's why we're going to go for I to the 0th power. So this expression, I to the 12th, is equal to a positive 1. The next question is 26. The following right triangle is given. So across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. So we know the hypotenuse is 21. And we also know the angle of elevation here is 37 degrees. So that's going to be the reference angle we use. They would like to know the length of side RU, which is over here. So that's going to be our x. That's what we're trying to find. So that side that we're trying to find is opposite the reference angle. And we also know the hypotenuse. And remember that we're going to be using SOHCAHTOA for these trig ratios involving right triangles. Since we're using the reference angle as 37 degrees, we know opposite hypotenuse, we're going to go ahead and use sine of theta. So we know that the sine of theta is equal to the opposite side of theta over the hypotenuse. In this case, theta is given as 37 degrees, so we're finding the sine of 37 degrees. And that is equal to the opposite, which is x, over 21, our hypotenuse. And our goal is to find out what x is equal to. In order to do this, we're going to cross multiply. X times 1 is x, and we have to multiply 21 times the sine of 37 degrees. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. (21) is multiplied by the sine. First, I got to check that I'm in degree mode, actually. I already am in degree mode, so that's good. 21 is multiplied by the sine of 37 degrees. 12.63811549. They would like it rounded to the nearest tenth, so the nearest tenth would be 12.6. That's what x is equal to. 30 is next. if f of x, which is your function notation, another way of saying y, is equal to the sine of x plus the cosine of x over 2, they'd like us to find f of 2x, f of 2 pi rather. So that means that the x is being traded out for 2 pi. So if I want to find the function value when x is 2 pi, this is going to be equal to the sine of 2 pi plus the cosine of 2 pi over 2. And the sine of 2 pi can be found, but over here what's going to happen is 2 pi over 2 is going to come out as the cosine of pi. Now we're in radian mode, so we got to switch to radian mode on our calculator. After doing so, we would like to find the sine of 2 pi that's equal to 0. And then we would like to find the cosine of pi, which is a negative 1. So we're going to subtract off 1 from 0. Our final result will be a negative 1. That is the function's value when x is equal to 2 pi. 31. Which value of x satisfies the equation the sine of 40 degrees is equal to the cosine of x? And we have to remember that this is only true when you're dealing with co-functions. Sine and cosine are co-functions. And co-functions of complementary angles, which are angles that are adding up to 90 degrees, are congruent or equal. Since sine and cosine are co-functions, we know that 40 and x need to be complementary, which means that they add up to 90 degrees. Therefore, 40 plus angle x has to equal 90. The only value of x that would work is 50 degrees. The cosine of 50 degrees is equal to the sine of 40 degrees. And you could test that out on your calculator. Just make sure you're in degree mode. First, I would see what the sine of 40 is equal to on my calculator, 40 degrees. And then I would also find the cosine of 50 degrees, which is the cofunction of the complement, and those are equivalent values, so that works. Number 33. What is the period of the graph of the equation y is equal to the cosine of 2x? Important to know that the standard form for the cosine function is y is equal to a times the cosine of bx. The b is the frequency, the a is the amplitude. However, they're asking you for the period, and the formula for period of a trig graph is that it's equal to 2 pi over b. So take 2 pi and divide by the frequency, which is 2. The period of this graph is pi. And that would tell us that when x reaches pi, you have seen one full cycle of this equation. The other questions are going to be in a different video so that this is not so long.